a massive step further. It was the last time Alexander would see his homeland and his mother. It says he entered Asia Minor, and the first city he conquered was Baalbek. You can look that up, which he renamed Heliopolis. Then he liberated Ephesus. Now, Ephesus is mentioned in the scriptures. Why did Paul go up to Ephesus, of all places? Because you had Israelites up there in a Greek state of mind. That's why it said the Jews first and also the Greeks. It says from Persian rule. So he's taken down, the Persian strongholds step by step. Then Alexander defeated the Persian army's main force at the Battle of Issos. Issos. Next, he sacked the city of Sidon and Aleppo. Aleppo still, you have a place called Aleppo today in Syria, and then conquered the rest of Syria. So Aleppo is an actual place that still, they kept that name. They kept the name Syria. They kept the name Aleppo and Egypt. These things were going well for Alexander. He would have been about 24 years old, and he was undefeated. And why was he undefeated? Because the Most High put the spirit on him to fulfill prophecy. Every single battle was a victory for him. He felt so. This was divine. How do you say? The divine. Not divine inspiration. Divine providence, this was divinely done. I can't think of the word. Please forgive me. He felt invincible. He felt that his victories were proof that his mother had always been right. He would have felt like he really was a god. Because what did she tell him? Okay, I didn't even read that part, or did I? Okay, let me go back to... This is right below the picture of him, as you can see. It says background. It says here, I don't know if I read this. Well, it says his parents was Philip II and Olympias of Epirus. His father, Alexander, learned the art and science of warfare. But historians agree that his mother was far more influential in his life. From her, Alexander inherited a profound love for learning, and also his fiery, sometimes ruthless nature. And the Most High put that spirit on him. But you see here, it said he had a fond love for learning. So he wasn't no ordinary guy. It says during the early years, Alexander's mother constantly told him that he was part God. Her family had long claimed to be descendants of Achilles, the demigod. And demigod means God of the people. People, God, meaning God. So she told him that this meant some divine blood was pumping through his veins. Of course, that's all nonsense. Yeah, it's all myth. Achilles was a myth, and Achilles was written by Homer. It says, and Alexander was and Homer was a big-nosed Jake. It says, and Alexander was a mortal man like any other, but it's important because of the profound effect these stories had on Alexander. Well, Alexander was more than just a man, because the Most High set him up to be that ruler, to be in that slot of history. So he wasn't going to slip on a banana pill. He wasn't going to die of any disease. nobody was going to kill him. You know, his course was set. It says he believed he was the descendant of Achilles, which prompted Alexander to study all that. I'm sorry. Which prompted Alexander to study all he could about the demigod, that demigod being Achilles. In his adult years, Alexander even carried with him a copy of Homer's Iliad, which chronicled Achilles' conquest. And like I said, Homer was a writer, and Achilles was a character out of Homer's mind. Every night he slept with this book under his pillow. He carried it with him into every battle. Now listen at this. This is a fascinating thing that I didn't know about. It says, when Alexander was young, he was personally taught by Aristotle. And also we read something about the men, the 4 generals that came up with him. They all came up as young men. And I don't know if it was all of them or some of them. I believe it was all of them that they were taught and trained by Aristotle. Which Aristotle and Homer would have to be Jakes. Aristotle would have to be a Jake. Aristotle, what's this one? The main one. Damn, I forget these names. The main Greek teacher. Aristotle came after him. Damn. Anyway, it'll come back to me. It says, among the subjects, Aristotle, listen at this. Among the subjects, Aristotle, and this is another reason why I believe Aristotle is a Jake. Among the subjects Aristotle taught him was the Hebrew language. Now, how in the hell did a Greek guy learn Hebrew? I thought they were Greeks. Aristotle had to be an Israelite. Now, I can't give you a picture and show him standing next to the 12 tribe sign, you know, wearing fringes. But, you know, when Jake does things, they go all out, man. And no matter where we go, we make that place great. We're that light. We're the salt of the earth, literally. So, you know, according to me, Aristotle had to be a Jake. So, Alexander was being taught by a Jake. In my opinion. It says, but he taught him Hebrew, the Hebrew language. Now, how do you know the Hebrew language? Maybe because he was a Hebrew? It says in 336, when Alexander was 20 years old, his father was assassinated. Alexander descended the throne of Macedonia and took command of the massive army his father had spent his life assembling and training. So that army was just given to him. It was put in his lap. Campaigns of conquest. Almost immediately I read this part. It tells you about how he took down the Macedonians and went into Syria. And let me jump down here. It says, just before entering into Asia Minor to wage the campaign, Alexander's mother pulled him aside and told him that his true father was not Philip, but none other than Zeus, the king of the Greek pantheon, the king of the gods. And they believed that shit, you know. And it had to be Jake to come up with these tall tales. Okay, let me go down. It goes on to say that his mother said that he was a god, and he started believing it. Okay, it was around that time that Alexander set his sights on Jerusalem, which Jerusalem means city of peace. Alexander, these ancient prophecies are about you. It says Josephus, and that's where it's mentioned. Josephus, a Jewish historian who lived in the 5th first century AD, said that when Alexander was just about to enter the city of Jerusalem, the Jewish or the Israelite high priests, which were actually Levites, at that time, a man named Joshua, which is a play on the name Judah. It might have been Yahawadiah. Met him on the outskirts of the city. Yahawadiah or Jodadua led a procession of affluent residents of Jerusalem. They hoped that by walking out to meet this mighty warrior, they might keep Jerusalem from being destroyed by his army. The sight of the high priest and the procession gave Alexander pause. He entered the city peacefully. Once inside, Yahawadiah brought Alexander to the temple and showed him some passage in the book of Daniel. So this was the priest named Yahawadiah that showed him who he was. It says God had inspired the prophet Daniel to write this book back in 535 BC, about 180 years before Alexander was born. But we know that because of Daniel 10 verse 1, in which Daniel says he wrote in the 3rd year of the reign of Cyrus the Great. Historians agree that would have been around 535 BC. So these historians know that these accounts actually took place because there's secular records on it, and it links up right with the scriptures. It says Yahawadiah or Jadua would have shown Alexander such passages as Daniel 11 verse 2 and 3, which discusses the Persian Empire pushing against Greece and eventually being conquered by a mighty Greek king. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in possession, and the 4th shall be far richer than them all. That's Ahasuerus or Xerxes, and featured in the movie 300. The big tall guy with all the jewelry on him. That's the 4th king. And remember in the movie, he was buying people out because he had so much. I mean, he had so much riches, man. He was able to buy. Take a handful of gold, and you faint with the gold. But that's chump change to him. It says, and by his strength, to his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia, which is Alexander the Greek. That's where Alexander comes in. And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. And that's talking, he's explaining, he said, that's you, my man. It goes on to say, Yahawadiah or Jadua, which is Yahawadiah, would also likely have shown him companion passages in Daniel 8, which give more detail about the mighty king of Greece, who would defeat the Persian Empire. These passages truly are about Alexander the Greek, and they were written around 200 years before his reign began. Let me read a little bit more. It says, you can imagine Alexander the Great standing in a temple next to the high priest. And that's why we talk to people. We'll talk to people and we'll explain, you're an Edomite. We're telling you now. Hey, Alexander believe what the priest showed him. And now we're showing you who you are. You're Edomites, but you don't want to accept it. But you are the Edomites. It says you can imagine him being shown an ancient scroll with the words. And by the way, we just read that Alexander knew Hebrew. So Alexander was most likely talking to him, and he had to be talking to him in Hebrew. it says, scroll with the words of Daniel written on it. Thanks to the education he had received from Aristotle. What did he receive? What was part of his education? Let's read on. Alexander could read the Hebrew words Daniel had written. He needed no translation. Check that out. Check that out. So he read it for himself. The priest showed him and read it to him, and he said, give me that scroll. And he opened it up, and he read it. And he said, oh, that's talking about me. And he read it in the Hebrew. The pure language of the earth is the Hebrew. Inside joke. So he needed no translation. He had also been told by his mother his whole life that he was no ordinary man. And he wasn't an ordinary man. He was, no matter what he did, his course was already set. Predestination. But someone with divine blood coursing through his veins, this passage in Daniel, of course, did not say he was divine in any way, but in a way he was, because he was set up by the Most High. You know, the Most High touched him, you know, before he was born. This was going to be the seed that's going to be the guy that's going to take down the Persians and fulfill my prophecy. But Yahweh would have told Alexander that the book had the true God's fingerprints all over it. You know what? This is a good read. It says, he says, we don't know all the details. We can only speculate about Alexander's thought process, but it may be that the fact that his mother had always told him he was of divine origin made him more open to believing these ancient holy scriptures. So Alexander believed it. The high priest Yahweh showed him the scriptures. He read it to him. Then he said, "Let me look at that for myself. Do you know I happen to read Hebrew?" And he opened up and this is a new thing. I'm just finding out about this. I didn't know that Alexander knew anything about Hebrew. That's why he got to study.